podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Cardiff Central Podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Cardiff Central, the podcast for Cardiff rugby fans. Joining me this week, as always, my co-hosts Aled and Carwyn. Good evening, gents.
Good evening, Lee. How's it going?
Good, boys. Good. So we're not going to start on the Australia. We're going to leave the Australia stuff to the end. We'll talk about that. But yeah, what a night last night was. So Carwyn's feeling rough, and it's nothing to do with going on a 12-hour drinking spree after the game last night. Is that right, Car?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Lee. I did not. I want to categorically say this today that I did not. I am cradling hot squash and honey. That is out of necessity rather than choice. I've actually become a 5-year-old overnight. Yeah, I'm rough with the cold. Honestly, I feel horrendous. But no, Aled, how were your celebrations last night? Were you busy?
No, I was just straight to bed really. After the Fiji game, I was up till about 2 a.m. Just my heart rate was going like the clappers. I was staring at the ceiling trying to get to sleep because the adrenaline. I was so pumped up. Whereas yesterday was a bit calmer overall, weirdly, and yeah, just straight to bed, up early for work really. But yeah, not a mad one, but
It was a weird game,
feeling,
wasn't it? Yeah, because we're not used to being that comfortable a win. You know,
no,
especially...
I was still waiting for us to kind of implode, even when the scoreboard was ticking up. I was thinking, right, how are we going to mess this one up? Which I think says a lot more about me as a supporter and us as I think a lot of looking on social media, a lot of people have been saying the same sort of thing. I think there's some deeply ingrained in our cultural psyche that we just watching and waiting for something to happen that's going to completely turn it on its head. But it didn't. So
yeah. I was talking to a couple of mates, and I said, you know, with 20 minutes to go, I said we've lost it from better positions than this in the past, boys. And they were like, no, it's a different area. I've been watching rugby since the 80s. I've been watching them playing rugby since the 80s. Trust me, we can still screw this up.
Yeah,
we are more than capable of screwing this up. But yeah, so we'll talk about Wales Australia later. But anything exciting and interesting happened this week, boys? And I'll start with mine because mine is I'm going back to work tomorrow. I've had all my meetings and they've said, hey, you're okay, you can go back to work. Try to get a note off the doctor to say you're fit to go back to work. It took me 1 day to actually get to speak to the right person, and then another day to get them to write a note to say you can go back to work early. My happy bit is I'm going back to. Sounds stupid.
Yeah. I was about to say I don't know whether to celebrate this, Lee, or commiserate. Either way, we're drinking, but whatever. How are we toasting this?
Yeah, I mean, when the dogs start talking back to you, it's time to go back to work. So yeah. It's time. So, what about you guys then, Carwyn? What have you got?
I don't have exciting. I've got lesson learned. Lesson learned was do not leave a pasta bake on the top of a stove that your girlfriend's made you, and then leave the window wide open for the neighbour's cat to storm in. That was a lesson learned. She slaved over the pasta bake for about half an hour to an hour, and then we went into the living room having had a portion each and left the rest on the stove. And then next door neighbour's cat has wandered into the kitchen through the window and had a little nibble in it. So that was a lesson learned. Apart from that, I couldn't say I've got anything exciting as such. More just watching various sports and enjoying and despairing in different levels. Wales women against Iceland was despair at failure to win out in Iceland, and then Wales' victory last night.
So did the cat take a good nibble out of it? like, did it go through the whole lot, or was there enough like you could cut off the bit where the cat's been and then save the rest?
Well, I would say that it was more of a case of not knowing where the cat had been and not been. There were enough hairs inside the pasta bake to assume that he'd had a decent go at it. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that was straight in the bin, to be honest, which was very disappointing. But yeah, that was probably. I was trying to remember. I thought I had another lesson learned, but obviously I've forgotten it. So there we go. That's not gone well.
Alan, what about you, mate? What have you been up to this week?
So today I've just been putting in all my sort of annual leave for the rest of the year. Half term up here is the 30th of October onwards, so I just thought I'll put in that week, which happens to be the week after the World Cup final.
Yeah.
So I've put that in as a penciled. Really holding back the optimism though, because it's growing legs. Yeah, worst case scenario, get a nice week off in October. Best case scenario is I may venture over to Paris. So
I did see you looking at booking a ticket to Paris.
Yeah, I made a joke. I made a joke after the Fiji game about booking a flight, but that was too early. But it's difficult because obviously you need to, if you're going to go, and if we do go, I will be in that stadium by hook or by crook. I will be there. But you have to wait long enough to how realistically likely is it you're going to get in? Because you don't want to book all this stuff and then watch France v South Africa or whoever it's going to be. So yeah, leave it too late and you're not going to get a ticket. Leave it too soon and you end up looking a bit daft buying all this stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, I had a couple of weeks ago, 2 months ago now, I went in and had an operation and it was on our anniversary. And for that weekend, we always book a weekend away. So we were going to go away to Cardiff. So when I came out of hospital and all that kind of stuff, it was like, right, we're going to set a date and then we're going to go to Cardiff. I had to rebook the hotel, go book a date. Right, okay, yeah. And farted around with all sorts of stuff. Ended up on October 20th that weekend. Didn't think anything of it. And now it's like October 20th. October, shit, that's semi-final weekend. And I've promised my wife that we're going to be in Cardiff and I'm not going to do any rugby things at all. And now we were watching the game last night and it started dawning on me because people were going like, oh, Argentina in the quarters, maybe, that might be quite an easy way through to the semi-final. And going semi-final and I go, 20. Oh no, and I'm kind of looking at it going,
it's like dawning realization.
Yeah. And I'm like, that escape room, you fancy doing that escape room on your own, it's I don't think it'd be very popular.
Just be like, you just head over to, there'll probably be a fan zone at the Arms Park. Just head over there and go, oh, that's weird. This escape room looks like the Arms Park. And once you're in, it's like, well, we're in now. We may as well stay for a bit.
Yeah, I quite like walking the way I am. So I don't think, I think if I tried anything like that, I wouldn't be. Anyway, let's
on semi-final optimism. I did get asked, "Are you free on that weekend?" by staffing at the BBC. So the BBC are already starting to book gigs for it. So whether or not that's a good or bad omen is probably way reflective of certain organisations.
You could do a thing on people that have mistakenly booked romantic weekends away that are not able to watch the game. Right, let's talk Cardiff stuff, boys. Let's talk Cardiff because we have got a game coming up this weekend, and I'm going to remain neutral in this one because this is the Cardiff podcast, and like I said last week, I'm a Scarlet just to get you boys up and running. So it is Cardiff and Scarlets next week. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the kit because we didn't have a chance to talk about the new kit last week. So blue and black, half and half. What do we think, Aled? What do you think?
I really like it, to be fair. I've seen a lot of people whinging about it because people whinge about everything. I think it's different. I wouldn't like it to be the standard. I wouldn't like it to come in as sort of like a long-term, year after year kind of thing, but it's a bit different. I know people have been whinging. It's a bit like a Blackburn Rovers, Crystal Palace kind of knockoff. But yeah, I think it's different. I don't mind when they try something different. Some people like it, some people won't. I think it looks better in person. I think once the team run out in it, I think a lot of people will think actually it's a bit growing on me. Um, so yeah, interested to see how popular it actually is. I think last year we had quite a good shirt, which probably people maybe didn't acknowledge at the time, and then seeing what's next, people go, actually last year was quite good. We're back to the pink for the away, which I always really liked. The pink was always really popular. It reminds me of like the Paul Tito era, and yeah, it was always a favorite in the crowd. There's always a demographic that's going to hate it because certain people don't want to wear pink, which is fair enough, but it's a bit different. The only thing I dislike about it is it's like the same style as the home kit. I prefer it when an away kit's like completely different. Sort of like last year we had the horizontal stripes and then like the chevron arrow things with the red. And it's got the Welsh language badge for the away kit, which I really like. I think that's a nice little touch. Try and get a bit more Welsh language representation in there. Obviously, ideally, you'd be able to pick which shirt, home or away, and which badge you wanted, but logistically, not going to be able to do that. So overall, I'm pretty happy. I think next year then revert to horizontal stripes would be a crowd pleaser. I think a few people are unhappy because they leaked an image, and I saw one on Twitter where someone had made the brightness and the contrast. They played around with it, and everyone saw it and thought, "Oh, we're going back to quarters," which is obviously a very classic, vintage kind of crowd favorite kind of shirt. So then, when it wasn't quarters, that people had convinced themselves it was, outrage ensued, like it always does. Overall, I'm pretty happy. I think once you see people in the crowd wearing it, or the players run out with it, I think it'll probably look better and grow on people a little bit. But I say I don't want it to be the standard, forevermore sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to agree with 90% of what Aled said, apart from I actually don't like it. So the major point. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the half and half. I think quarters would have been great. I got to back that. I think that'd be great. And also, I agree with you. I think it's been nice to have a different style for the home kit and the away kit. Pink back, brilliant. I've always thought that's a lovely touch from Cardiff and everything that's meant, historically with cancer research, etc. I thought it's always been a lovely touch. But yeah, this sort of two-tone kit, it's just a bit naff. I got to be honest. That's my feeling. It does nothing for me. And yeah, I agree. I think the kit last year was lovely. When you look, and it's sort of missing what you've had really in a way with that. Before you knew, missing what you've lost before you knew what you had, sort of idea that with that one. And I suppose I don't hate the kit, but it doesn't fill me with joy. I know to just look at other kits, Osprey's kit I actually really like. I really like that's the big Osprey's emblem on the front. Dragon's kit's come out today. I think that's a statement maker. I think this one's a bit bland. I don't think it's made a statement or going to make a splash, whereas the others I think could possibly do so. The gold of the dragons, as I said, the Osprey's emblem on the Osprey's shirt. So it's a bit safe, but a bit safe and sorry in my opinion.
Mm.
So we're already taking roles on this podcast. I can see anyway. Eternal optimist and eternal pessimist, but yeah.
The bit I don't understand with the kits, though, yeah. So you've got your home kit, blue and black. If you're playing against a team in black, let's say by some miracle you end up playing against Saracens in the European Cup somehow, yeah. And then you go, okay, we'll go change kit. Well, you pink and black. Well, it's the black that's the issue. I would have thought that somebody somewhere would have gone, pink and I don't know, a different. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. I agree with you. I think it's now so much the case that it's not. It's just a change strip as a change, an optional change rather than a
kit clash thing.
Yeah, well, it is a kit clash thing, but because other sides have kit alternatives, you throw it to them, don't you? So look, Saracens will turn out in white, or Ospreys will turn out in white, as opposed to the black strip, which I don't know how Alan feels about that, but it does seem a bit ridiculous that the away side, in my head, if you've got a kit clash and you're the away side, you change your strip. That's how I've always felt about it.
What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, so it's different in rugby because the home kit always wears the alternate, don't they? Because traditionally the touring side then only has to take one kit, in theory.
Yeah.
I think also, it's a nice tradition to have. Realistically, it's not really relevant to professional sport, as you said. It's you can just change it, to whatever you want. And sometimes you get teams they don't actually wear their change kit very often. I think like the last World Cup, Wales didn't actually wear that green away kit we came up with, which is a bit of a shame for people who liked it or bought it or whatever. But it's weird because I think Sail Sharks, their home kit is navy and their away kit is a lighter blue. And I think Glasgow is their home kit is black and then their away kit is blue. And someone said, well, what about when they play Cardiff, sort of thing? So it's a bit weird to just go. I think they've gone, well, the home kit or whoever we're playing can wear, come up with the solution. Or I don't know how much work they do with the broadcasters or the the league to say, well, is this okay? And that's why I think the half and half for the home kit is, whether you like it or not, it's one thing. And then if they just gone solid pink for the away, then that'd be different. So I think in one of the European Cup games this year, I think it was Brive, they played in black at home, and both of our kits were quite dark, so we ended up wearing the home kit from the previous year. So I don't know if they're just keeping hold of some old jerseys just for that kind of eventuality and stuff like that. I did message Cardiff to see if we were doing a third European kit this year, because we haven't had one of them. We didn't have one last year, and the one before I really liked it. It's got kind of like this old-fashioned chunky white collar and the stripes, so I've still kept that. They didn't get back to me, so and it's interesting in the World Cup as well. There's a lot about colour blindness, and both teams just wearing their away shirt rather than one keeping it, because there's a bit of a thing that the team in the away shirt has a psychological disadvantage almost. Whether that's true or not, not really seen, but there must be some credit to it if people are talking about it. But so I guess both, as you say, both teams can wear their alternate or kind of do that. I'm not that fussed really. I think a lot of people getting annoyed that they're not seeing their teams in their traditional colours, which is nice. It's good to see. But I've watched Cardiff play in blue loads, and I'll watch them play in blue loads again. So it never really worried me too much, especially if colourblind people can get into the game.
Yeah, when you said that, then I just realised how Cardiff this is. It's half and half, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's an half and half.
But that was the launch. I think they did like Caroline Street. They were
yeah. But yeah.
See, I remember many years ago when I was still playing, and for some reason our first team jerseys hadn't turned up. They haven't been washed or anything, and they just didn't come back. So we had to go digging around this old shed. It's like a storage shed at the back where they've just put all the old crap for like shirts from like 2 or 3 seasons ago to turn up. And they've got this manky old bag with various animals flying out of it and all that kind of stuff. But there you go.
Black cats.
Yeah. It's like, that's your kit for today. And you're a rugby player, it's fine, yeah. And you're doing do we really have to? There were boys spraying it with, it was like this massive, you'd open the door and half a ton of lynx would just flow out onto the pitch. The boy, come on, we're not wearing it. Oh, it's disgusting. It was I can't even remember who we were playing, but yeah, looking back I wouldn't want, I'm assuming that's not how Cardiff kept the kit from last season. I'd be disappointed if it was, but yeah, there's a lot to be said for last season's kit. So what kit will we see on Friday then? Cardiff and Scarlets. What kit? I'm assuming it's going to be blue and black.
Would have thought so. Yeah.
And
with Scarlets in red, I'd imagine. Although I do like the Scarlets away kit. I have to say that it's like a teal green with the contour things on it. What do you think of that, Lee?
It's officially it's sea green, and so when
is the sea green? Is the sea actually green?
That was exactly the comment that we made. Has anybody actually seen the color of the sea lately? It's got a little map of the Scarlets region on it, and they've done similar things in the past where they've done like the name of every club, and then they rotated it. So for like 3 seasons, there was a Pembrokeshire one, there was a Carmarthenshire one, there was a Ceredigion kit and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a nice touch. It's always going to be red as the first kit, so it'll be whatever it'll be. I mean, it's nice enough. I prefer the green one to the red one, in all honesty, because the red one's not got the map detail on, and I think the map detail just kind of adds a little something. But slightly more difficult to do for Cardiff. Put a map on there of Cardiff and the region and stuff. But we'll avoid talking about that for now.
So let's make sure we mention Cardiff and the region, Lee. Let's not start with that one.
That's what I mean. It is, for Scarlets, the region is very easy. It's an old David map, so wherever that line was, boom, that's the Scarlets region. Whereas I think once you get, Cardiff and then Newport and then the lines, the lines kind of blur a little. But I'm going to avoid talking about that because I'm not a Cardiff supporter, boy, so I'm going to avoid that fireworks straight away. So what are you guys hoping for the game? I'm not going to comment on the game on Friday, because I'll only wind people up. But what are you guys hoping for on Friday? Ale, are you going to watch?
Yeah, I'm going. I got the day off, luckily, so I'll be down spending the day in Cardiff. I'd like to see Cardiff absolutely smash Scarlets, obviously. But I think it'd be a good insight into what we can expect for the season. I mean, it is a pre-season friendly. Well, I'd say friendly. They're never friendly when it's a derby. But yeah, where we are, you can't read too much into it because whether it's going to be a lot of sort of academy players or none of the internationals are there. I think we don't have as many internationals as Scarlets. Maybe I think that might be right. It's not far off. They're all about the same, each of the teams. I think Ospreys have the most. Maybe I'll get checked on Facebook if that's wrong. So yeah, it's you don't want to take it too seriously from if we lose, we're going to lose the season. But yeah, I mean, obviously you want to win, you want to see them play well. I'm really interested to see some of the new players coming in, what their play style is like, because a lot of them I've no idea. Like until Cardiff announced the signing on, I saw it on Twitter, Instagram, or wherever. I'd never even heard the names before, So a lot of unknown entities. So really looking forward to seeing them run out onto the pitch, try and give them a warm welcome. Hopefully it'll be a good turnout. The one saving grace is that Wales haven't got a game this weekend, so that might help attendance. But I'm not sure how much the pre-season friendlies are actually that attended anyway. But it'll be a good day out. It's been a long time since we've been to the Arms Park. I think it was about 160 days I worked out or something, which is it feels like a long off season. So I'm just really looking forward to getting back to my seat and giving the Scarlets some abuse.
I'm staying quiet. Carwyn, what about you, mate? What are you expecting?
I'm excited to see that 10, 12, 13 combination. I think that's the first thing. Who's it going to be? Is Lilo going to be shipped straight back into 13? I'd expect so. And then where's Ben going to be playing? Is Ardwell going to play? I'd be surprised if he did. So took in Spears 10. I think it could be a really interesting game. I think Scarlet you'd expect to be a week in advance of Cardiff because they've had that friendly. Because Cardiff wasn't it something ridiculous like 8 or 9 players turned up for their first training session because of Wales under-20s, Wales commitment, and etc. So I think it might be a bit of a difficult first test for Cardiff first up. But saying that, who knows what could happen? I'm just looking at the squad from last weekend with Scarlet. It looks reasonably strong, and I'm trying to think who would be the Cardiff equivalents. And as you mentioned, you're losing a few internationals there, but you've lost quite a few players from last season. And I hope it's not a reality check or or a moment where Cardiff fans look at it and go, "Oh God, this is going to be a real worry for the season." Because I don't think it's doom and gloom, but I think there's definitely going to be a case that this game may temper some expectations. But then again, it could. Then again, in Cardiff could pull that performance and win by 40 points. So that's Cardiff. That's Cardiff rugby.
You disagree, Liam? I think.
I'm just thinking.
It's Cardiff rugby. It's Cardiff.
Yeah, it's shit or bust, isn't it? It's either going to be, everything's going to click. Yeah,
I want to emphasise those are your words.
No, I think the Scarlets. The Scarlets are a bit more settled.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and I think that's the only real difference. It is, with everything like Cardiff season, the way Cardiff season ended, kind of dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. So the signing of players and the starting of pre-season and all of this kind of stuff didn't really happen the way it has for other clubs. And like you say, sometimes that can build a mentality. That can build a, we're really up against this, boys. And then sometimes it is just you need an extra couple of weeks to get into the swing of it. But I think it'd be interesting. I think it's going to be a good game because both sides are going to want to throw the ball around. But I will throw this in. So I've just checked the weather map. So it starts raining. According to my weather map, it starts raining on Wednesday morning and then just keeps going. There's a small bit on Friday. There's genuinely Friday night between 6 and 10 o'clock. It says dry. So we may actually get away with it. It may be dry for the game, and then it might howl it down for the rest of it. But
thank goodness for 4G pitches, eh? But I don't know if that's serious because I've played on that pitch and it's an experience. But
doesn't it get like when it's wet? Doesn't it get like super slidey? Isn't it?
Yeah.
The plastic on it does just kind of you can scoot a good 10, 15 meters and stuff. So
yeah. I think we've seen Theo Cabango slide in for about 12 meters in the past. I think. Yeah. He's but that's just due to the pace, speed he's going. I think. Do you know what? I am excited for the game because I think we could learn a lot about a couple of players, see who are the next big things, and not to preempt any scripting because we do apparently script this podcast loosely, but if we're coming up to talking about first game of the season against Treviso, I should say, I think it'd be interesting how it goes this weekend because I think that's a really big game, that first game of the season, and I think these pre-season games to get Cardiff tuned up, fit, and ready because. We speak about Wales all the time and then how important momentum is for them is so important to a league season as well. But when you're starting with a team like Treviso at home, that historically is a banker 5 points. In the recent years, it hasn't been. But you'd still want to win. And that's a game that I feel Cardiff, if Cardiff get a bonus point win at home to Treviso, that sets them up for a good campaign. If Cardiff lose that opening game against Treviso, that's it's not we're not talking disaster region at all, but we're still talking that's already a win off the board. If you're thinking you schedule your points where you get your points this season, that's already one off. That's 4 points off the board. I don't know if Al had things to say about how crucial that game is going to be.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I mean, we've seen on some of the social media that the teams have been training together as well. So then the pre-season friendlies against your sort of domestic rivals really is a bit odd anyway. It's always nice to play some of the English clubs. But obviously they're doing their Premiership rugby thing, and we've seen the Irish provinces are doing their pre-season friendlies internally as well. So, but because of that, you'd normally have one pre-season friendly that's a test, so say Scarlets, and then you'd have a pre-season friendly that's where you're going to go out and absolutely hammer them, because then that leads you into the season kind of with boosted morale and full of confidence and stuff. And obviously we've not been able to do that this year because we've got Scarlets in the Ospreys, and I think it's Ospreys have got Dragons, then Scarlets, and that it's just so it's understandable in a World Cup year, but it's a bit of a shame that they've not had that freedom necessarily to arrange those kind of fixtures. So you want to be going into the season on the front foot. If it is a massive reality check, which I'm hoping it's not, I don't think it will be, but if you've two heavy losses to your closest rivals before the season's even started, you're going to be on the back foot. And I think we need a lot of morale at the Arms Park this year. A lot of that's going to come from the supporters. So we've got our own job to do. And two heavy pre-season losses against two of your nearest rivals isn't going to really boost that. So could be interesting. Like I said, they are pre-season friendly, so you just need to take them with a pinch of salt. But I'm looking forward to getting back to the Arms Park and seeing what some of the new guys are made of, seeing what the older who are now the experience, how they step up into those leadership roles, what goes on there. We shall see.
Did you catch the Scarlets Barbers game or no?
No. I say it was too far away, and same day as Wales Portugal. So yeah. I mean, I've heard reports, I've seen reports and things like that. But do you know if this game's going to be streamed? Is it going to be visible anywhere other than the park? Because I've not seen anything yet, but sometimes they don't.
I can tell you there's updates on radio on certain radio stations.
Yeah, but it'll be that. No,
I'll double check. I don't think so. They're normally not, from what I remember.
No, I don't think so.
I think last year there was even more. I think we were due to play Zebra, I think, and then that got cancelled, and we ended up they were going to do it mid-season. So I think they scheduled a friendly against Bristol during the Six Nations, and then they ended up doing like a free bring a friend halfway through. So as long as the games go ahead, we'll have a better pre-season than last year anyway.
No, I just think it would be nice to be able to see like Scarlets did this thing with a company called Recast, which basically there's no commentary or anything like that. It's like the training cameras.
Yeah.
So, you get to see the game, but it's not like a proper game, so there's not the production or anything like that.
Yeah. Once we played, it was POW in a Challenge Cup game away, and they just set up a YouTube feed, and it was just next to some French bloke who spent the entire game swearing in French really loud. So it was the authentic French away experience from the comfort of your own home. It was brilliant. But,
yeah, I think Scarlets against the Barbarians actually put quite a few of the younger players out. So I'm expecting to see Ken Owens, Johnny McNichol back, Wyn Jones, Samson Lee. That's a pretty awesome front row if they make the pitch. So yeah, I think with the journey that the Scarlets went on last year, the start of the season was shocking, and then after that kind of got a little bit better. So I think there's a bit more positivity and a bit more stability down there. But then you look at what Cardiff's got and you think actually, I think the mentality is probably a bit not stronger, but a bit more determined. There's like something to prove now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's obviously looking at what the players and the coaches are saying in the press. There's a definite mentality to prove people wrong. I think we come under a lot of fire last season, and during the off season, with legal reasons, the club couldn't actually say much. So that negative story was building up in the background, and they couldn't really respond with any positivity. So I think they do have a massive statement to make. So hopefully we see that on the pitch.
But there's a massive siege mentality going to be for the Cardiff this season, and I think that could get them through some big games as well. I think that's going to be the case. I think, as you mentioned, the legal reasons with the situation with Dye, the other situation with the pub. From what I've heard, they was actively players wanted to get rid of certain players who were involved in that situation and couldn't. They legally couldn't get rid of them. So, I think now there's a situation now where they're going to have a siege mentality, all work together, and that could really pull off some great results for Cardiff this season. That was almost positive from me, wasn't it?
What's in that cup?
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's not Lemsip, man. Okay, so do you guys want to? I know it's a friendly and all of that kind of stuff, but let's have a friendly suggestion as to what you think the score might be on Friday. Then, so Carwyn, go on. You go first and see how strong that Lemsip is.
Yeah, it's not strong enough. I don't think. Like I said, I think Scarlets are a couple of weeks ahead of where Cardiff are. I think they are. I think that's just realistic. I think they've had more players back for longer. With a situation with who's been selected for the World Cup plus injuries, Scarlets have ended up with, as you mentioned, that full international front row. You've then got McNichol, you've got players like that. So I would expect Scarlets to win. And I think if Cardiff pull off a result, I think there's a bit of I think that would be a disappointment for Scarlets. I think that genuinely would knock them back a few pegs. So I'd say, but I think it's not going to be too much. Probably 10 points in it, 32-22, something like that, 30-22. I'd go for a scoreline around there to Scarlets.
Okay. Alid, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I was going to go 35, say 35-25, but to Cardiff. I think there'll be a lot of tries scored. I'm only saying that to wind you up, Lee. I think there'll be a lot of tries scored, but I think it depends which team we put out. I've not seen a team sheet. I don't think whether they'll release one because it's friendly or not. But the players that we have left and that I'm hoping to see, I think there's enough quality there that there should be some consistency. I think that point to prove, as Carwyn said, will carry them through a lot of games. And if they come out with that mentality, and I can just kind of see it being quite a fast and open game. And hopefully that'll play into our hands a little bit more than Scarlets maybe. So that's what I'm going for. 35-25 to Cardiff.
Okay. Well, I'll pitch in with, I think what Cardiff have got in their favour is Scarlets don't know what's coming, as in, you can kind of set your defence against the Scarlets now. You kind of know what to look for, where it's coming, and where it's strong. And Cardiff have had so many changes and so many partnership changes that actually you don't really know what to expect from Cardiff. So whereas you could, the Cardiff camp could do a bit of research and do a little bit of preparation, and right, this is how the season's going to go, and this is the preparation that we do for every team. So we start now. Where Scarlets just won't be able to do that prep on Cardiff. So yeah, I'm going to go for I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for
a neutral. That's a cop out. That's a cop out.
I think Scarlets will edge it by 5-10 points, but it won't be much. It'll just be nice to see two Welsh sides back on the field. Genuinely,
yeah.
So,
I think I hope the game sort of opens up in the final 20, because obviously it's extended benches, isn't it, for these games? So that's the one thing, isn't it? You don't want it to be. It is going to be stop-start at points. It's going to be. It's a pre-season friendly. There's going to be mistakes, but it'd be nice to see it open up and give some have some tries thrown around, as we've both all said, sort of high scoring scores. Watch it key down with rain on Friday night, and we end up with a 10-6 thriller. Not quite in the realms of South Africa, Ireland, but maybe it will be. You never know.
But I think somebody said in the Scarlets Barbarians game that both sides made 13 changes at halftime.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, fair enough. But then if it's absolutely hammering it down and you've just been on for the first half, and somebody says, "Do you want to come off at halftime?" And sit in the stand with a nice warm coat on, maybe a cup of tea, might be able to slip off early and have a warm shower and be back out. That's not such a bad option, really. So yeah, might be a fair few. There's nothing worse than like being a prop and you get taken off and you go, right, that's my work done. And you sit up and you've got your warm coat and a cup of tea or whatever, and then your replacement prop goes down or gets sent off and you've got to go back on, and you're like, oh, come on, I was just getting warm. I was just getting comfy. Yeah, this isn't fair. I've got to go back on and play more bloody rugby. But anyway, let's move on.
I just want to say, if any Cardiff players are listening and go off at half time and need somewhere to go, there's a co-commentary booth spot lined up. I've already asked Alan for a bit, so we may have a few of us on.
and there'll be like lemsip everywhere. There'll be
yeah, lemsip and black cats. That's his theme, isn't it?
Cool. Right, let's move on to some World Cup stuff, boys. But sticking with Cardiff, really. So we've seen a lot of tier 2 sides over the last kind of couple of weeks really do themselves some justice.
Yeah.
I mean, Portugal in particular just seems everyone's second. They've kind of gone away from Fiji with their second favourite team, and Portugal is the new Fiji sort of a thing. So what have you made of the tier 2 sides, and who? You don't need to remember the name, just like the tall guy with a funny moustache from Samoa. But who would you like to see turning out in blue and black next year? So, Aled, who's impressed you, mate?
So I've been really impressed with Uruguay. I think they've played, some really exciting rugby. I think France it was France for Uruguay. Right, it's in that, wasn't it? Yeah, I think they possibly underestimated them a little bit, made too many changes. Didn't get the bonus point win, which we did against Portugal with the death. So Portugal, again, really exciting. They play really exciting rugby. It's almost similar to Japan, not this tournament, but previously, where you get the ball and people are kind of leaning forward on their seats almost, because you think, oh, what is about to happen? Georgia, the ballot's still out on Georgia. I don't think they really turned up against Australia, which was a bit disappointing to see. But Georgia v Portugal the weekend just gone was one of the games of the tournament so far. So obviously close at the end, and then I bet Georgia will decide to play brilliant rugby against us in the final game, just to make that interesting. And yeah, in terms of the players, obviously there's individual ones. Sort of, I think we could do with a hooker. So Escobar, I saw a few people from on social media tagging Cardiff Rugby, trying to get them to go over there with a contract pad in hand. It'd be interesting to see if we would even be allowed to sign that many tier 2 countries. I know when we tried to sign Tynus de Beer, there was a news article out saying that the WRU was either blocking it or trying to block it, because obviously they have to sign off on their visa applications. So in fairness, last season we had Arhip from Moldova, Lilo and Timani. So in terms of tier 2 players, I'm not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but we're not shirking away. If there's a player, tier 2 player that we are interested in to fill a hole, then they're obviously actively trying to go out and find them. But sometimes there's a reputation that it's when they're, the phrase journeyman, when they're on the end of their careers, when they're coming towards sort of retirement as a bit of a nest egg sort of thing. So it would be interesting to see a bit more proactive recruitment for up and coming youngsters. But then, yeah, I think there's also a bit of the Welsh public maybe need to check their biases, maybe, because when your lot signed Plumtree, there's a lot of pushback from that. Sort of started criticising the academy system, started criticising, well, if he's not good enough for Super Rugby, why is he good enough for Scarlets and Wales, sort of thing. So if the clubs are in a rock and a hard place, if they are going to go after the tier 2 players as kind of a developmental thing and as a benefit to the club, you're going to get a lot of pushback, I think. So it'd be interesting to see how that panned out, but I think it would be good to see some kind of proactivity because obviously there's a massive benefit to the club, and it's improving the amount these tier 2 countries are going to play at the top level, sort of thing.
So, Carwyn, any Australian tier 2 players that?
Testing with a barge pole, I've got to be honest. God, that sounds a bit harsh. Actually, there's one or two good players that just had bad games. No, I think I wasn't bored, by the way, going through Alad. If you saw me on my phone, I was looking through my fantasy team just trying to remember what his name. Martins, the second rower turned back rower for Portugal. I really like him. Plays number 7 for Portugal, but down as fantasy as a second row. And I tell you what, if fantasy points was a thing, it was the only reason to sign him. That's a good reason itself. I like Storty and Marta in the backs as well for Portugal. They're both talented individuals, but I'm pretty sure one of them at least plays for Pro de Deux, I think. I was always on the cards to go somewhere decent. So that's well, as we discussed last week's pod, that's a no-go pretty much for Cardiff. Rodrigo Fernandez as well at 10 for Chile. I think there's been a few people singing his praises from Welsh media circles in the past couple of months, and he is one hell of a player. He really is not. I know he threw a couple of interceptions or something on the weekend, but he is brilliant to watch. He is box office, and I genuinely would like to see him playing in a side that's going forward and has a really decent pack behind it, because I think he could be a dangerous player. As well, the 6 for Uruguay, apologies, his name skips my head, but again, then you're getting into the realms of, as Al has discussed, people complaining about blocking, signing these players and stopping players coming through. Back row in Cardiff is stacked, so we don't need back rowers going there. So yeah, but Rodrigo Fernandez, some of the outside backs for Portugal have been really exciting, and well, the only other ones I can think of for tier 2 would players like Niniashvili for Georgia, who is lighting it up for, I think it's Lyon, isn't it? So, we're not getting to him anytime soon. But yeah, I've been impressed by the tier 2. I must say, I know a lot of people have said about the imbalance of games and it's doing nothing for the World Cup. I largely disagree. I think there's been a lot of really good performances for tier 2 nations that I've really enjoyed. I thought, as Al had said, that Portugal-Georgia game is one of the world games of the World Cup. It's just maybe if there's a way of getting those games, I don't know if there's a way to do it. I don't want to suggest this because I don't like it, but having more of those games being viewed on TV, where there's like a placing for each team. I don't quite like that idea because, who cares about 7th versus 8th for who gets 8th in the whole competition? But at the same time, it'd be nice to see a Uruguay versus a Chile, a Uruguay versus a Georgia, and see how they go against each other, how they perform. And I know those games are out there, but they happen so rarely and so infrequently on such obscure channels. It'd be nice for them to have the opportunity to showcase their abilities. And I know, I think you had Francisco Isaac on the other week, didn't you, Lee, on the Rap podcast, and he's been pretty vocal about this new World League system and how that's going to curtail the opportunities of tier 2, and I think he's spot on, because for Fiji, who may be included, it's great, but for a Uruguay who probably won't be, it's an absolute disaster, really, isn't it, for them?
Yeah, it shuts the gates for a sustained period of time and kind of says, like, know your place, and that's where you are. And we've seen how fortunes can change in rugby. Watching Wales from 12 months ago and then Australia from 12 months ago, and how vastly different that is. So I think for some of these tier 2 sides, they need to play the bigger teams more often. And I'm almost thinking like the old style summer tours and things like that, where actually we don't go and play 3 of the big 4. We don't go and play New Zealand and South Africa and all that kind of thing. We go and play, a game against Portugal and a game against Spain, and then one big game against South Africa or something. Do you know what I mean? You go and play in Chile, and then you go and play Peru, and then you play Argentina. And you do a bit more around the development stuff. But it's the money. It's the money that keeps the big sides there. And until they realised that actually, at some point, I think like Australia's is about to go on that journey of we need to do something really, really different. I think the Welsh game is constantly in a state of flux of right, what do we do different, because we've got to fight against a much bigger English league on one side and a much more successful Irish kind of competitor on another. So we're always in that bit of trying to find a way of getting one up on people. Until we realise that those bigger sides that have got the more money need to kind of share that out a bit more with some of those smaller sides. We're always going to be in that position because it's run by money. It's not run by what's the best way to play rugby. You know, who plays the best rugby? Well, that could be Fiji, that could be Samoa, you know, that could be Japan a couple of years ago. They played the best type of rugby. Portugal arguably are playing the best type of rugby now. They just don't necessarily have the bigger players in the coaching system and the exposure to do it. So yeah, I think it needs a big kind of overhaul, you know, from top to bottom, not only domestically but internationally. And there was a thing a while ago about moving the IRB away from Ireland and things like that. You know, go and put it in Luxembourg, Portugal, Germany. You know, go put it somewhere where actually it will develop something rather than just aid the boys that are already there. Jobs for the boys, sort of thing. Someone's going to tell me. Yes. Someone's going to start having a go at me about it. But do you know what? Yeah. It's something that needs to change. But in terms of who's impressed me, so the Tongan scrum half, his hair impressed me massively. A great big shock of blonde hair over the top.
You mean the Samoan scrum half?
Yeah, there is a Samoan and the Tongan scrum half. They both have the same hair.
Both got it. I actually watched. I didn't watch Tonga against Scotland. I missed the game.
Yeah.
But
but you see one of them diving through the air to catch the ball, and you just go, freeze frame that, stick that on a t-shirt, because that's box office stuff. That is, boys, with the hair and you know, Faf must be looking at that and going, why have I got a full head? I only need a mullet. I just need a mullet over the top. I'm going to shave the sides there, and then we'll have every scrum half in the world having a ridiculous blonde mullet that just flies like a cape when they dive for the ball. I'd be happy with that.
It's the future of rugby, is it?
It's the future. Hair and moustaches is the future of rugby. Anyway.
On hair colours, was it just me or was Thomas Francis opting for an interesting hair colour on the weekend? Well, last night I should say.
He's gone. Well, it's gone, isn't it? His mullet's gone.
He shaved it off, didn't he? Was he dyed it? Do you think he's dyed it?
It seemed a strange colour as well. I don't know if that was me, but just looking up every 5 minutes from working, but it seemed like it had dyed into a certain.
I'm pretty sure he shaved it off. I think that's your eyesight. Maybe. Oh,
yeah, I think he's got rid of the mullet, which actually I applaud. I think it just didn't look. It wasn't bleached enough to.
Once you leave Exeter, you need to get rid of it, don't you?
I think it's a thing. Yeah, it's an entrance fee down there. But yeah,
God, Joe! I've now got images of Joe Hawkins with a mullet, and that's not something I want to see.
But if you want to go really crazy, you have it like black with a white streak down the middle, like a skunk. Anyway. So
that was the joke for a while, that Jack Goodhue, wasn't it? The New Zealand centre was just an average rugby player with a mullet and was getting into the squad on the back of his mullet, really, wasn't it? Anyway, sorry. I keep on trying to segue into something else, and I keep cutting across here.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are certain people that look at it and go, "He's in. He's got good hair. He's got a good tash. He's got a cracking beard." That's why Jake Ball came to Wales. Someone went, "Look at the beard on that. He'll do. Come on, we'll have him." That's what it was. Anyway, well, I was going to finish on the Wales Australia game is what I was going to say, guys, and you know, finish on a positive and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, what did you think? How enjoyable was that last night, Alid? How was that for you? What did you think of the game?
Yeah, it was obviously brilliant. I thought we'd win beforehand. I thought we'd win by about 10, to be honest. I thought it was going to be closer, but because I I knew the Australians are obviously in a bit of disarray, a bit disorganized. Simplistically, I thought we beat Fiji by about five-ish, and Fiji beat them by about five-ish. So I thought, well, we win by 10. I thought
Yeah,
their disorganization uh, would be counteracted by that famous sort of Australian dogged fight that would end up balancing about to where where I thought ended up. But that towards the end of the game, that fight just wasn't there at all. I couldn't really believe how poor Australia were. I think the early try set us up really well, and then the swing in momentum of them turning down the penalty to go for the line out, Jack Morgan catching it and sending it back downfield for a 50-22. That momentum change then, they were just on the back foot and didn't really recover for the entire game. I was still waiting all the way through. I wasn't as excited or anxious as I was during the Fiji game because I did think we'd win. I was still waiting for us to implode. And actually, one of the main good points I think is how ruthless they were. Australia were poor, but I think we made them look really poor as well. And just absolutely putting them to the sword rather than taking their foot off the gas. It was really good to see. I was a little bit surprised during the game that we didn't try and go for the bonus point. I thought when we were sort of 20, 30 points up, they maybe want to stop kicking penalties and go for the line out, just because I think I had thought leaving the pool top with all your bonus points would be quite a big statement, but really, it doesn't really matter. I think we'll comfortably do a job on Georgia, and then we'll finish top of the pool anyway. And even if we don't, we're still in the quarterfinals. So, yeah, just I was thinking about it afterwards. I was just absolutely shocked. I was driving home from where I was. I just couldn't really get my head around the fact that it was such a big scoreline. And I think Australia are in the kind of same mindset that we were when we got knocked out by Fiji. Just absolute shock on like a national level.
But Australia just didn't look like they were in it. What did you think, Owen? Were Australia that bad, or were Wales that good?
I've been tossing and turning with this question all day, genuinely, and because I don't know the answer. I actually disagree with what I just said right at the end there, that this is shock and surprise for Australia. I think this has been coming for a long time. I really do. I think the game, you start off with the game in Australia is going downhill, becoming less popular compared to other sports, soccer, Aussie rules, rugby league, etc., etc. But also, they've won one game this year, isn't it? Something that was against Georgia. And as I said before, I thought the scoreline massively flattered Australia against Georgia. I thought Georgia left loads of points out there. But Wales were just ruthless. Australia, there's certain things, like the key point in the game, Al has mentioned it, is that 10-6 scoreline. They kick to the touch, and there's the overthrow line out. But we had Sean Maloney, who's a commentator for Australia, and used to do his top fives and things on Fox back in the day. But he did something. He said that Australia haven't scored a try from a driving line out all year. So why do you choose that moment to go for a driving line out when there's a kickable penalty? It's baffling. And that was the moment to get it down to 1 point. Then you're in the game, I suppose, after conceding a brilliant set piece try, which that Jack Morgan to Gareth Davis try is absolutely brilliant. But Australia, there were certain things in that game. I just went, oh God. The moment where I went, this is probably the worst side I've seen in a long time, was that Tate McDermott chip box kick inside his own 22 that goes straight up in the air and everyone's inside the 10. I was just like, that is horrendous. That's up there with I don't know if you remember this, the Francois Houhard absolute mental breakdown where he taps and goes and then boots the ball out on the full for South Africa against Wales a few years back. It was up there on mental breakdown moment. I thought the weird thing for Australia in that is I looked at it, I went, oh, certain players actually didn't do too badly. I thought Rob Valetini worked incredibly hard and gave it a go. They looked like they could break Wales in the first half. They had a 10-15 minute period where Angus Bell nearly goes through, drops it over the drops it going near to the line. Mark Nawachanitawase. Oh, I've got that one.
Oh, well done. Congratulations.
It's been practiced several times. Him and Cora Betty doing their thing, looking dangerous. Karevi as well. I think he shoved off one of our players and looks like he's making a break. But then in the second half, you've got Karevi dropping the ball in his own 22, which I've seen probably 2 times in the whole time he's been playing international rugby. He's a world-class player. The game had so many echoes of 4 years ago as well. Like you've got the Dan Bigger early injury, Wales taking the lead, etc., etc. A fly half who's been widely criticised coming into the side and having an absolute stormer for Wales. That 4 years ago was Patchell, this time it was Anscombe. But I think the big difference, and Aled's touched on it, is 4 years ago we scored 2 tries in the first half and then defended for the whole second half. This time we had that chance with Lewis Summit to be just on half time, didn't score it. Then we just put our foot on their throats and we absolutely destroyed them. And whether that was the scrum where they take off James Slipper, who is a loose head playing tight head for a start, but is their only experienced player in that whole side, really. And they take him out, and that's 120 odd caps gone. And then you're left with Tate McDermott to steer the ship, with Ben Donaldson, a pair of halfbacks who've never played with each other before. So in terms of, sorry, I'm turning into an Aussie fan with my rant about how bad Australia were, but they were horrendous. But I honestly can't give Wales enough credit because certain players' performances were out of their skin. You know, I know Anscombe won man of the match, but that was Gareth Davis all day long. He was absolutely superb yesterday, I thought. Tompkins, what a player he's become this World Cup again, because he was brilliant when he came into the side a few years back and fell off a cliff. You know, there was all talks of him being told to put on weight at the Dragons and all this sort of stuff. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And you add in player performances like Will Rowlands, who's Wales such a different side when he's in the team. Ryan Elias, who's I think he missed 1 line out of 14 or something on the weekend, and how maligned his line-out throwing's been in the past. So yeah, in short, and then you had Jack Morgan, Scarlet's reject Jack Morgan on there. And you know what a team that is. What a team performance it was. And but yeah, I said before the tournament I thought we'd reach the semi-finals. I'm trying not to get carried away and say we're reaching the final, like Alan's tempted to do for finding a ticket. But it's actually now a possibility. I don't think it's ridiculous to watch that performance and say Wales will be a really tough side to beat, and Wales not conceding a try against Australia is brilliant, regardless of how bad they were. And if you're going to be playing an Ireland who looks likely, or possibly New Zealand, they're going to have to do really well to break us down. And we've got three goal kickers in Bigger, Anscombe, Halfpenny, who will slot our goals all day long. And we don't care if we're kicking 30 points off the tee. Great. So long as we're winning rugby and winning Test match rugby, which is what we're doing. Sorry, that was a really elongated sort of rant turned positive thing, but I'm trying something new this week, trying to be positive at the end. So hopefully that's coming across.
Well, I went back and watched the game again today, just to answer the question. You know, were Wales good? Were Australia bad? And the reality is, it's a combination of the two. Yeah. You know, we just everything went right for Wales. The ball bounced the right way. You know, a missed pass landed up in somebody's hands. You know, a missed tackle became an ankle tap, and the fell over, he knocked the ball on it and stuff like that. You know, a missed pass went into touch. So everything just kind of worked for Wales. You know, even when Anscombe missed his kick, it comes off the post and it very nearly ends up in a try. Do you know what I mean? It just everything just seemed to work right. And yeah, you could see the enthusiasm just seeping out of Australia as that went on. So yeah, I think it was a combination of the two. And I think the trick to it now is for Gatland to go and keep feet on the floor, because I think this is what we've done in the past, where we go, hey, look, we've had one good win, we're amazing. Let's all book our tickets for the final. But we do that. We tend to do that, and we don't bring ourselves back down and go, right, okay, let's look at where we could have got it wrong. Let's look at where it could have gone wrong. Let's look at the opposition and how we can break them down again. How do we do that performance again? And I think that's where the top flight sides are really, really good, where they'll turn in that performance week after week after week, and that becomes your expectation. So yeah, I think that there was a lot of positives in that game. So anyone that's listened to me talk before or speak on Twitter will know that George North is not an outside centre in my head. I actually thought the defensive system that we put in accounted for his weaknesses. Yeah, because what happened was we drifted so well. We tackled really, really well inside. So their only route was to go way outside. The amount of 4-on-2s that Australia could have run or should have run against George North and Louis Rees-Zammit, I counted 4 where they could have done it. But what happened was that the pressure in the middle was either forcing them back in or forcing them so close to the touchline that actually defending it became a lot easier. And they kept running back rows at empty space. When you had gaps, they were massive gaps that that back line left. And Australia were running back row players that, in all honesty, weren't up to it. They're trying to throw a massive pass out and all of that, and it's just not working. So, I think Wales did really, really well to defend that way, and to make them just run out of options. But then Australia made it really easy for Wales to defend the way they did with that.
That George North thing, though, I think I've always felt that centres, especially outside centres, they need a 12 that they can rely on. And I think he hasn't really had a centre partner ever since he's had that 13 jersey. If we're being frank about it. And I think he's finally got a guy he feels he can rely on. And I think that was the case. You watch Foxy with Harkes or with Jamie Roberts versus with Scott's maybe a bit harsh comparison, but with players after that, apart from Scott, it was night and day. They have no faith in that inside partner. And I think once you get that cohesion, you add in Gareth Davis doing his absolutely brilliant scrum half flying out the line. The defensive operation was superb on the weekend, and full credit to them.
Yeah. Right, gents, we're running out of time rapidly.
Can I ask one question before we leave? Because we haven't. I don't think we've actually asked this. Who's your winner of the World Cup?
Oh. See, I before the World Cup started, I pegged Ireland. That was my. I did it on an Irish podcast. But for me it was Ireland. What about you, Alan?
I will still say either Ireland or South Africa. I think the game they played on Saturday, it looked like they were playing a different sport to everyone else. I think playing the right team, they could get disrupted, and then I think they played each other's game, and it was a really exciting, intense game. But if you can slow it down and disrupt it, then it might not go that way. But I think the way they were playing, it was so fast and so aggressive and physical, and it's going to take some team to beat either of them. I think I'd probably pip. I'm going to say South Africa, just because they've got that experience in the late stages of the tournaments, which Ireland haven't got. I know we joke about the quarterfinals a lot, but we've seen a lot of those players get to late stages of tournaments recently and not have that final sort of 1%, whereas obviously South Africa, the reigning champions, we know they can do that sort of thing. So,
okay, Carwyn?
I said France pre-tournament. Needless to say, I think they've been decimated by injury, so I'm struggling to see how they win it. South Africa is my pick now. I thought the weekend was a game Ireland couldn't afford to lose. South Africa could lose and still go on and win the tournament. That was basically my assessment. And I think Ireland are very fortunate they don't have Scotland this weekend. I think if they have had Scotland this weekend, the last week would have been this weekend coming. Last weekend would have been their World Cup final, sort of, England 4 years ago. If you're thinking about that, against New Zealand, and then playing South Africa the following week, I think that would have been there. And I think they could have come unstuck against Scotland. But with that extra week where they've got a game in between to have a bit of a crap game and still come across and win, and who cares if you don't get a bonus point or not? I think they'll be fine.
Interesting conversations, gents. I thank you for your time again tonight. It's been a pleasure. We made it through the second one. Some people thought we wouldn't make it through the end of the first one. So, yeah,
that was us.
Yeah.
You got a call with the Scarlets fan. That's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, thank you very much for your time again tonight, gents. This will be out on social media and all of that malarkey over the coming week. So, a big thank you to everybody that liked and shared everything last week, and the feedback and on what have you. I say I put my hands up. I am a Scarlets fan, but it's an absolute pleasure having a conversation with Cardiff boys about Cardiff. So yeah, I'm not so sure I'd be able to do this with the Ospreys, I'll be honest. But yeah, great bunch of fans. So yeah, please keep it coming, and we'll do exactly the same thing next week, gents. Have a good week. All the best.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and you. Speak to you later.
All the best.
Thank you for listening to the Cardiff Central podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.